He wants to know what's shaking other than this fortress. That's right, today we're sharing 5 Transformers facts about Blaster. Like this video and let me know which is your favourite version of Blaster and whether you're getting the 40th anniversary reissue of G1 Blaster. Fact 1. Making his first on-screen appearance without an explanation of where he came from in the Season 2 episode of the G1 Sunbow cartoon, Dinobot Island Part 1. Blaster's toy was imported in 1985 by Hasbro into the Transformers toy line from Takara's Microchange toy line. Japanese toy designers Hideki Yoke and Hiroyuki Obara designed Blaster's original toy, the MC-21 Radicasi Robo, which was released in Japan in 1984. The original Microchange figure included a microcassette, which was actually an AM radio you could listen to through an included earphone or the speaker radio in the main body of the MC-21 Radicasi Robo. That's right, the original toy isn't a functioning radio. The microcassette contains the radio, meaning the Radicasi name is short for radio cassette. Because the tape door included a speaker plug allowing this functionality, the MC-21 Radicasi Robo could not carry the transforming microcassette robot in its chest compartment like the Transformers release can. The MC-21 Radicasi Robo was available in blue and red, with the red version being released as Blaster for the Transformers. Although aesthetically he remained almost identical with all the same buttons and switches as his Microchange equivalent, the buttons no longer functioned, and the electronics, including the radio, were removed for Blaster's Western Transformers toy release. Fact 2. Unlike many of the Season 1 and 2 Transformers, Blaster managed to survive the events of the Transformers the movie, allowing him to appear in Season 3 of the show, as well as the Japanese continuity. Unfortunately, he met his demise in Transformers the Headmasters while battling against his Decepticon counterpart, Soundwave. After falling in battle, Blaster is rebuilt with a new colour scheme that's, well, a bit loud, and renamed as Twincast. For his Japanese exclusive toy release in 1987, this name made sense, as it granted him the ability to hold 2 cassette bots in his chest at once, which, as you can guess, means that yes, the radio feature from the MC-21 Radicasi Robo was long gone by this time. Fact 3. Although Blaster was characterised as a fun-loving bot in the Sunbow cartoon, his personality couldn't have been more different in the Marvel comic. Rather than being the bombastic music lover we saw in the show, the Blaster from the comics was an underground freedom fighter driven by his friend's loss to stop the Decepticons, giving us a much grittier take on the character. When Blaster arrived on Earth, he found Grimlock in charge of the Autobots, and he didn't agree with how he was running things, so he left with Goldbug to go on their own way. Interestingly, while away from the rest of the Autobots, Blaster would encounter what would later become one of the fan favourite adversaries in the early episodes of Transformers Prime, Scraplets. Blaster and Grimlock eventually came to blows, again going against the laid-back characterisation of the Blaster most of us are familiar with, and settled their differences. Unfortunately, Blaster met his demise not long afterwards at the hands of Starscream during the Underbase saga. Fact 4. If you're unfamiliar with the UK run of the Marvel Transformers comics, first of all, I highly recommend reading them, as you're missing out on a lot of fun stories that weren't in the US Marvel comics. But secondly, you might be surprised to hear that actual Transformers answered the letters pages. This resulted in some fun and sometimes out of continuity responses to letters sent into the comic, depending on who was responsible for responding to the letters at the time and whether they were staying properly in character. In the final run of the Marvel UK Transformers comic, Blaster took over responding to the letters. From issue 300 until issue 332, when the comic ended, you could read Darn and Blast, in which Blaster would reply with his usual bombast to questions and suggestions sent in. So what about these out-of-continuity responses I mentioned earlier? Well, Blaster once refused to acknowledge his own offlining in a previous comic issue. He also didn't say anything about his resurrection that came later on either. While Blaster's Darn and Blast was a reasonable way to round out the letters page run of the Marvel UK Transformers comic, personally I always preferred Grimgrams and Dread Tidings, but that's just me. Fact 5. In the G1 Sunbow cartoon, Blaster was voiced by American voice actor and television host Buster Jones. Buster Jones was a host of Soul Unlimited, an all-black version of American Bandstand that Dick Clark created to rival Soul Train. His career as a DJ led him to voiceover work for commercials and eventually voice acting. Buster Jones' Blaster voice characterization in the Sunbow cartoon really starts to make sense when you consider his DJ background. Unfortunately, Buster Jones passed away on the 16th of September 2014 at the age of 70, but he leaves behind a legacy of work with plenty of memorable appearances in 80s and 90s cartoons. Buster Jones is best known for voicing the roles of Doc in G.I. Joe and Winston in The Real Ghostbusters and Extreme Ghostbusters, replacing Arsenio Hall, who went on to work on his talk show. He also provided his voice acting talents on Defenders of the Earth, Captain Planet and the Planeteers, and the new Batman Adventures. This is Prymus84 and you've been watching the 5 Facts of Prymus. Thanks for watching. Follow me if you want to see more Transformers facts, and let me know in the comments if I missed anything, got anything wrong, or if there's anything you want me to cover next.